evening and welcome to my Sunday night series. Tonight's program is going to be on short-term memory loss and some very basic information around that is not available in your doctor's office or your neurologist's office. And that's why I'm here, because I like to talk about what's not being talked about and give you the solutions that you can use from home that'll give you that leg up on these symptoms. Now, let me just say this out loud. Losing your memory as you get older is not normal, and it's not a sign of health, not even close to a sign of health. It is talked about in the medical model like this is normal. But as we go through the presentation tonight, I think you'll see not only is it not normal, we don't have to put up with it. We don't even have to be in that conversation of having those things happen. But you have to leave the medical model. And let's dive in. My background, very briefly, for 40 years, I've been a naturopathic physician. I personally entered the model as a very sick patient. I had about 6 different actual medically diagnosed disease processes happening, everything from premature menopause from when I was age 19 to 24, to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. I had fainting spells that they couldn't diagnose. They had no idea why. Believe me, I got tons of tests, but they were just like, well, we don't know why. You're going to have to learn to live with it. I had a chronic pain syndrome. I had chronic fatigue syndrome before there was even the terminology for that. A few years after I had it, I learned that's what it's called now. I had viral stuff. I had all kinds of stuff. And I was forced, I believe, into the medical model that's called holistic healing, and then later became the wellness model. And the reason I was forced into it is just really basic. My medical doctors looked at me and scratched their heads and said, okay, here's your estrogen from pregnant mare's urine called Premarin. Here's that for life. Here's a referral to a psychiatrist. You can learn to live with your conditions. Here's your painkillers for your osteoporosis slash osteoarthritis and your neck pain. I had sciatica as well. So it was always a competition between the neck pain and the back pain. And basically, they just expected me to stay in that model and just keep on keeping on. And the thing that finally blew me out of the model completely was that I had a pap smear that came up precancerous. And what you don't know about me is I was raised as an athlete. I was also raised on a farm with animals, lots of animals. I had horses. I raised them. I showed them. I trained them. I sold them as a very young person. So I knew when an animal was sick, there were treatments, there were things you would do. So when my gynecologist said, oh, you've got a really bad pap smear, it's not cancer yet, so we can't treat it. I said, well, what do we do? And he said, oh, we do watchful waiting. And I'm like, I'm 24. I said, what is watchful waiting? And he said, oh, we watch. You come back every few months, we do a new pap smear, and we wait for the cancer to come because it surely will, Jesse, and then we can treat you. And I'm like, no. Before that happens, what do we do? He goes, no, watchful waiting. And that's when I knew something was really wrong. So the rest of it is history. I met a mentor a few years after that. She fully trained me in this. We reversed the menopause. We reversed my chronic fatigue syndrome. We reversed my short-term memory loss. I didn't even mention that to you, but I had severe short-term memory loss while I was having all these metabolic issues. And I told Teresa Dale, I know what my IQ is. It was tested, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. And I'm 25 when I meet her, by the way. And she said, no, you're going to see it's hormonal, it's toxicity, it's gut stuff, but you're going to be just as smart as you ever were in the long run. And the truth is, I am. So I know what we can do, and that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to start a little brief presentation with some slides I made up. And boo, 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 boo. Okay, so here's what we have to really get our minds wrapped around. First of all, it's not as hard as you might think. And the reason it's not as hard as you might think will be revealed. So let's just go through some basic hard, cold facts. Short-term memory definition is the capacity to hold small amounts of information in an active state for a short period. Remembering your phone number, remembering someone else's phone number long enough to key it in, remembering recent instructions, your banking sign-in information. So these are the kinds of things that live in short-term memory, including what did you eat for breakfast yesterday? A lot of clients, when I first meet them and I'm doing intake and I ask them that question, they actually have a hard time remembering what they ate for breakfast yesterday. So when memory loss is a problem, that's the inability to retain or retrieve recently acquired information. Common manifestations, and I think we've all had them under stress, for sure we've had them. Difficulty recalling names, forgetting recent conversations. That's when your partner says, don't you remember? We blah, blah, blah. Misplacing items. Where did I leave my, where is my, where are my? And then my favorite, walking into a room and going, wait, what I come in here for? And I believe we've all had these at different points in our life, but here's the situation we're up against now. As we're moving through the getting older in time process, medicine is completely failing to help us in this because our doctors are taught that it's a brain symptom and therefore the problem must be a brain problem. Science has advanced enough in the last 5 years to say without a doubt, short-term memory issues have to do with brain inflammation. Okay, that's progress. But to heal anything, we have to address the source. And the source is not the brain. It's completely coming from somewhere else. And the source is our adrenal glands and a hormone called cortisol. Elevated cortisol, when it's just too high, is a real health hazard and ruins short-term memory. Quick aside here. When I was practicing in Fort Lauderdale in Broward County, I had some functional medical doctors literally beg me to come across the street from my clinic and 1.5 days a week work with them and help them with some of their toughest cases because they were failing. And what I learned from them is one of them had just recently gotten back from a seminar that he paid a ton of money for, and it was how to reverse early stage dementia and Alzheimer's. And the number one recommendation of that 5-day course was, and I quote, regulate the patient's cortisol. So this is serious, this is real, but it's not in your regular neurological office, not in your regular doctor's office. Experts agree, high cortisol will be the leading cause of dementia no matter what your age. Again, in the 40 years I've been practicing, I've met 35-year-olds that are very concerned about their short-term memory. Oh, and by the way, since I'm recording, if you could mute yourself, that would be really great. Thank you for that. Okay, we're not going to get into these details tonight. These are other classes I'll be doing, but just so we all are clear, high cortisol also causes diabetes and or low blood sugar. In my experience clinically, it starts out as low blood sugar, and that's the classic. You walk into the room and you don't remember why. You go, wait, that's when it drops really low. But on the other hand, it can also call high blood sugar. And I've seen cases where it rotated between high and low all day long and caused all kinds of minor brain disruptions. But high cortisol will also cause major sleep disruptions. And a lot of people, especially I find the more socially mobile folks that I've worked with, they think it's normal to get 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. I guarantee you that's going to undermine everything and shortchange you on your memory. Because no, we actually need about 8 and some people even 9 hours of sleep a night. And we need it to be the right sleep. It has to be deep sleep. And we'll talk more about that when we get into solutions. It can cause monster hormonal dysregulations, everything from testosterone crashing to estrogen and progesterone crashing in women. So this is a big deal because all of those different hormones, when they're crashing, accelerate the aging process. And we've all seen the signs of that. We're not strangers to that. Premature aging across the boards, from skin to thinning hair to baldness to muscle atrophy, and my favorite, thyroid imbalances. Number one other thing that happens besides blood sugar disruption, which will shortchange your short-term memory, are the thyroid imbalances. And medicine says, oh yeah, you can have short-term memory disruption if you have a thyroid imbalance. So we're going to get into some solution here. I have to change into a different slide deck. And just hang on with
okay.
me.
I have almost every single one.
Lori, can you mute yourself, please?
How do you do that?
That's a really good question. There you go. Okay, so we're talking about cortisol. And again, my words on cortisol is it's the antichrist to all good hormones. Again, just to regroup quickly, it's a hormone produced by the adrenal glands and it regulates various body functions, including metabolism, immune response, and stress management. Now, if you remember, I already said your short-term memory is a metabolic situation. So this is what you want to really hang on to because your doctors don't know this yet. So cortisol is known as the stress hormone. It's the fight or flight response, and it is a safety to keep us alive. However, we're not designed for perpetual high cortisol. And when it stays high, we definitely get the belly fat. And nobody likes that picture on the right, but it is what happens. That was my mom for sure. We get weakened immune systems. This is proven in science. We get the sleep disturbances I mentioned, which can really short-term the brain health. We get mood swings, anxiety, depression, short-term memory loss, muscle breakdown, and higher low blood sugar levels. Long-term major diseases, because this sets us up for monster inflammation. So we know we need to get it down, but the big question is how? First of all, we have to have some lifestyle changes, and I had to make lifestyle changes. And I've had to perpetuate those lifestyle changes over the decades. So the first one is mindfulness and meditation. If you have short-term memory problems and you are not practicing some form of mindful meditation or breathwork meditation or both, you're missing out because that actually has been proven scientifically to enhance short-term memory. Also, movement, physical activity, exercise. We know that the more we move the body, it will balance cortisol. Let's think about this for a minute. If your body thinks that you're in extreme danger, which is why cortisol goes up, and let me just give you some background, and that could be your life partner walking in and saying something to you that's completely disruptive. It doesn't have to be a life and death situation. It could be simply, I can't find my keys and I'm in a hurry. Okay, but as we start to relate to that information, if we're having a cortisol incident, we should be either putting our dukes up to fight for our life or running the heck out of the room. That is what the physical activity is designed to be when cortisol's high. And I'm going to say it again. When our cortisol goes up, it's for saving our life. We should be running or we should be literally swinging our fists hard. But in 99.9 repeating times, that is not what we're doing. We are standing or sitting in a situation where we're trying to stay calm, even though we're disrupted. And that is not okay for our brain. Furthermore, a lot of us, because of stress, aren't eating properly. And we know that balanced diet, nutrition, especially now they're finding out protein and avoiding seed oils, very, very helpful to brain power. I'm personally an enemy of most grains, so I would say literally, unless your nutritionist wants you eating some grains for your brain health, I would not recommend grains. Healthy proteins, healthy fats, no seed oils, and perhaps even think about intermittent fasting at night. The body wants its basic loading of fuel in by day when the sun is higher in the sky. If we tend to eat at night, maybe out of habit or tradition, we're probably limiting ourselves because that is not actually, and even the yoga masters say this, don't eat 4 hours before you go to bed, 5 hours. So speaking of going to bed, adequate sleep and 7 to 9 hours to reset those cortisol levels. If we don't get past 5 hours, the adrenal glands don't reset. So if you're waking up at hour 5 and then having to do a bunch of stuff to get back to sleep, you are never resetting your adrenals. And we'll cover some solutions of that very, very shortly. Social connection, hugging, laughing rather, spending time with loved ones, all really important to reduce the stress. Now, Some of you may be battling some weight gain with your high cortisol. We're not going to do a deep dive on that tonight. I do other courses on that. But know that higher cortisol does tend to make us crave the wrong things. So if that's been you, because of how it downregulates the thyroid and slows metabolism and sets you up for craving, I want you to take yourself off the cross and let's look at some solutions. The solution actually lies in a brand new system that science discovered the end of 1989 into 1990. It's a complex system that's actually already present in the body. And this system regulates other body functions, including brain power, mood, sleep, appetite, pain perception, immune responses. It really works with brain neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt. And I want you to think of this system in a couple of different ways. Number one, this system is like the conductor of an orchestra. It ensures that all systems work together in perfect harmony. If you look over on the right, you'll see darker dots and lighter dots. These dots are the actual receptor sites. A receptor site basically, you want to think about it like a parking space. It can only park certain things, and in our body, the endocannabinoid system can only park CBD, which is an extract from hemp plants. So this is really new science. And what we've also learned with the new science is stress, poor diet, lack of exercise, say you have to be at a desk job most of the day, plus environmental toxins, which are super on the rise all the time, even in our diet, our natural cannabinoids that we make for ourselves are seriously depleted. And when that happens, it leads to an imbalance of the ECS or endocannabinoid system. And that's when you start to see all the different symptoms. Things like short-term memory problems, anxiousness, depression, sleep issues, pain management difficulties, along with a host of other issues. Now, we're going to dive into how CBD works with your ECS or endocannabinoid system, but CBD is an extract from hemp. We're going to dive in further, but I want you to hear me out loud. It'll be 50 years before your medical doctor recommends this, and when he does or she does, it'll be a synthetic version of a hemp flower extract, and it's going to have side effects because big pharma cannot patent natural plants. This is Mother Nature's, God's design for us, is to have plenty of CBDs. Now, here's what happened at the turn of the last century. When Mr. Rockefeller in the US of A had his oil monopoly broken apart, needless to say, as a robber baron wealthy guy, he was really upset about that. But his chemists were coming to him and saying, Mr. Rockefeller, we're finding all these interesting chemical things that are byproducts of your oil and gasoline, and we're finding them interesting, and maybe they could be worked into some kind of profit. And Mr. Rockefeller gave them the mandate to make, and he called them medicants, which then became the word medicine, out of these petrochemical byproducts. And then he gave a huge grant to some cronies to start what we call the AMA. And then those cronies went to our government and said, we need to stamp out all hemp because hemp is used in herbal medicine. Hemp is used like an old wives' tale. We want to modernize these medicines. And literally what happened was the government in the US of A and many other governments followed suit, stamped out all the hemp and also all the marijuana. Here's the problem with that. All of our ruminants, our cattle, our sheep, our goats, our bison, our deer, our elk, all over the world, we're eating hemp because it's a volunteer plant. It pops up everywhere where there's sunlight and water. It needs no nutrition, no pesticides. The bugs don't like it, but it works for all mammals in balancing this ECS system. So if your parking spaces or receptor sites become depleted, your body is definitely out of balance. And I am on record for saying we are at least the third generation of human beings to be robbed of sufficient hemp flowers in our diet to be balanced. Most of us have empty parking spaces. Now, the solution is important because a lot of the hemp in the US of A is from China and it is disgustingly toxic. I'm not saying that as an opinion. Here's the hard science. Hemp is known as a mop crop. What that means is if you plant it in a toxic soil base, it will suck up all the toxins into itself, which means if you pull that plant and take it somewhere else to compost, you've cleaned your soil. Well, in China, they know that. So what they do is they use all the hemp that they're sending to the USA to mop up their soil, and then they take that and use lighter fluid to extract the actual CBDs and then package that up nicely and send it to us. And when you go into a gas station or any rest stop across the USA, you will see these products. And they are very toxic, which is why a lot of people will say, oh, I tried CBD, it didn't work. Well, that's because it wasn't really CBD. So you have to understand there is magic in the procedure of how you extract the product, how you grow the product. This company that I found has seed to bottle integration. So they own it from the seed all the way through the growing, all the way to the bottling procedure. Everything is third party tested. That means literally, and I've got a bottle right here handy that I can show you very quickly when we get back off the slides. But there's a URL code on the back. You can scan that code and it shows you everything in the bottle. USDA certified organic, hemp flower only because the stems and the rest of the plant have no concentration of all of those wonderful cannabinoids. And of course, we use clean soil. You can't get the USDA organic certification without that. Some of our products are in nano jellies and some of our products are in liquid tinctures. Our tinctures are in organic coconut oil. Everything we make and do is organic. And this company uses the highly touted, scientifically superior method CO2 extraction of the hemp flower. That is a very safe, non-toxic way of getting the therapy out of the flower and into the jelly or the product itself. This is actually one of my mentors in Green Compass, Stacy. Stacy has a great story about how she shifted her metabolism. And she would also say, if you had interviewed her at the left slide point of her life, she had a desk job. She was raising two teenagers. Her husband is a police enforcement guy, so he's busy and stressed. And she said her cortisol was through the roof. Her short-term memory was just not there. Lists and notes and post-its everywhere. She got on a few of our products and she noticed a couple of things right away. One was she felt calmer and less stressed. Number two, she started to feel more open-minded and motivated about doing her self-care and sticking to her food plan. She noticed she wasn't craving as much. Now, I already said we crave more sugar, more of the wrong fats and salts when our cortisol is high. That's just a biological thing. But what Stacy noticed was the more she stayed on the product, the more she shifted. She literally started to notice as the cortisol regulated that her body started to balance more. Now she wanted to work out. Now she wanted to stick to her plan. And then she added our collagen, which we're going to talk about, which is an amazing healing product for all of our glands. And of course, our teeth, our bone, our skin, our nails, everything. So what we're really talking about to get yourself back on track with short-term memory are twofold products. One is a CBD product and one is a collagen product. Collagen is vital because our body is made out of protein, and collagen is kind of the glue that holds all the cells together. And after the age of 25, we start losing it. And by 45, and I'm 66, big concern over here, we've lost up to 25% of our collagen. Now, the collagen that we have has both the CBDs, the cannabinoids, and one particular cannabinoid called CBG. So let's take a look at the performance here because this is huge. Look in the middle blue. First of all, you're never going to get high on these products because there's not enough THC for that. But secondly, Anti-inflammatory is the number one thing you get from our collagen. Well, the science says depression and dementia are massive inflammation to the brain. So we have to get inflammation under control. It's critical. Over here on the far right, look at this. It relieves ADHD symptoms. That's definitely impacting the brain. Over here on the far left, anti-epileptic, alleviates depression, encourages deep sleep. Back to the middle, anxiety help. Over on the left, inhibits the appetite. It won't inhibit your right appetite. It just inhibits the wrong one. Great for muscles. It can even help with things like glaucoma. But the thing I want you to hear the most is when science first discovered the endocannabinoid system and how CBDs interacted, it was all over the endocrine system, adrenals, thyroid, pituitary, etc. So there's two ways to try our products. And some of you already know this and you're already starting on this, but we have the tinctures. Again, those are available in the organic coconut oil. The flavors are delicious. We do have choices. If someone's getting drug tested, maybe they're a frontline responder or police, law enforcement, military, they're going to want the broad spectrum. That's completely THC. You can take it forever and never flunk a drug test. However, for the rest of us, I do recommend the broad spectrum full flower. It's got that 0.3% THC. It's just going to give you a little more calming relaxation. The tinctures are available in different potencies. I always recommend that you start with no less than a 750 milligram because you really do want to be able to tell that it's helping. And we have the nano jellies. These guys are amazing. They're very scientifically curated, not like other jellies you're going to see out there on Facebook or anywhere else, because these actually last 24 hours. The science our team uses so advanced, they found out which cannabinoids go in and act quickly and which ones and go in and act very slowly. So the jellies last for 24 full hours and have a full 25 milligrams of the cannabinoids, which science says, not our company, but the science says you got to have about 25 milligrams a day over time to really impact that ECS system and get that balancing act to really kick in. So again, the benefits are huge. We're going to be bringing down inflammation. That's exactly the thing we need to do. We're going to be helping our endocrine system, which includes our adrenal glands, regulate its hormones, and which includes cortisol. You're going to sleep deeper. You're going to assist your body in getting to homeostasis or a better balance. And really, that's what we all want. We want the regulations to kick in. This doesn't have to be so hard. And that was one of the things that had been bothering me over the last couple of years. Yes, we had the pandemic, that was hard, but I kept in the back of my mind saying, why is it so hard to regulate cortisol for everyone? And then I stumbled across the research that said, oh, we were ripped off. We were robbed. We have an entire system that's bankrupt thanks to lobbyists and government for the AMA. The collagen is phenomenal. This is what actually got my husband addicted to the products was the collagen because he had been down in Mexico getting our rental house ready, painting and stuff. He was gone for 5 weeks. He came back, took one look at me and said, "Oh my God, what's going on with your face and your skin?" I said, "I think it's the collagen." He said, "How do I get this?" So it's bovine eggshell and marine collagen. The bovine is from grass-fed cows. It is complete 8 different types of collagen. I guarantee nobody else is doing this out there. It is hydrolyzed. Most collagen companies are not hydrolyzing. It's an extra step. It's more expensive that way. However, it means you're going to absorb the product. So I definitely recommend this for anyone who's concerned about brain neuroplasticity. And now that we know that the gut is the second brain, check this out. This collagen is healing leaky gut syndrome like crazy in my practice. So everyone needs to be on the collagen. It also has olive leaf, which is a really potent antioxidant, plus 73 trace minerals, vitamin C, vitamin E, and biotin, guaranteed and third-party tested, pesticide, gluten, and dairy-free. And again, that secret sauce is the CBG that drastically lowers inflammation over time. Now, we do have an entourage effect, which is a synergistic effect that occurs when different cannabinoid terpenes and different plant flavonoids co-mingle. So cannabinoids are like the engine of the vehicle, and that's going to determine the strength and the psychoactivity, but the terpenes steer the wheels. And we have some add-on products for people that have major goals with their well-being that will make your collagen and your jelly or tincture work even better. Nobody really cares about the hard science of this, so I'm just going to skip this and say when you have different colors and different plants, they have flavonoids, and hemp has terpenes, and terpenes have been found to be very valuable therapeutically. So for those of you that wake up like clockwork at 2, 3, or 4 a.m., we have something called the Organic Sleep Boost, essential oils plus particular CBDs. And you just take a few drops of this under your tongue, hold it for a full minute, lie back down. If I need this, which I take when I travel, I notice I fall asleep and I'm still kind of holding it in my mouth. The last thing I remember is swallowing it. We also have the Organic Boost for metabolism. This can be very helpful during the day. It opens up the liver, which assists the thyroid. So this is really another helpful boost product. And we have a digestive health collection as well, which is a nano jelly that opens up gut power. Again, gut is the second brain, and we cannot throw that out. The medical model just does not want to own this one, but I understand why. There's no money in it. There's no drugs that heal the gut. There are no drugs that make your gut ecology improve. And yet, simple things like some basic herbs, some basic ingredients with hemp really can optimize and get that bloat down and get things happy. This is a great product here, the sleep jellies. Now, this one I actually needed when I first met this company because I was getting ready to move to Mexico and my house was torn apart and I was in boxes and there was a lot to coordinate, like 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And I was in charge of it because I have the brain power for it. So these sleep jellies, I would chew one about 45 minutes to an hour before bedtime. I would fall asleep and go in really, really deep. And if I did wake up at 3 or 4 a.m., I could take a couple of drops of that sleep boost, put myself right back out. No fogginess in the morning. In fact, I would wake up, stretch in the bed, feel relaxed, and then just be ready to go because my metabolism got the reset button pushed. I cannot stress this enough. If the sleep is not deep enough, if you're not hitting that delta cycle thoroughly, you will not reset your endocrine glands. Your adrenals and thyroid will not reset, and you will never have metabolic health. So we know that anyone can benefit from these products. And I want to thank you right now for watching. I'm going to take a moment to stop the screen share. See how I do that right here. And open it up for questions.